So something I often hear a lot is whether people who read a lot, who read like 100 plus books a year, remember what they read in the books. And so I'm here to kind of test the theory out. I'm going to start recapping books I read this time last year while continuously reading currently. So I'm reading Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings series. But last year, around this time, I read Before We Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This story is about a woman. She is 2 years off of a traumatic event, and in that 2 years, her husband and her got a divorce. Her life went to shambles, and now she's picked it back up through therapy and building herself back up, and she's ready to step back into her professional roles. Currently, her husband and her are divorced. She stays in the house that they had while they were married. They have 2 children. She was not as active with their company, which is a restaurant that they both own. They started it together based off his aunt's recipes. I think his aunt's raised him or something like that. And so the business was thriving and everything was successful. And then they had a couple of tragic events. The aunt passed away, and then she was pregnant with their third child, and she had an accident at the workplace, and that caused her to lose the baby. Now, you don't find that out in early chapters of the book. You just find out that they went through something traumatic, and they kind of like hinted out through. So the setup of the book is that I'm bad with characters' names, but I think her name's like Yasmin. Yasmin is coming back to work, and her husband are starting to have encounters, her ex-husbands. And one of the things is she gets asked out by, I think, like a mayor candidate in town. He's a like handsome white guy, and that was her first time going on a date. Outside of her marriage, she's never been with anyone else out there. And so as she's getting back into the work environment, her and her husband have some tension, her ex-husband, and she kind of realizes he's dating the new cook, and she doesn't know how she feels about that. And we found out some details about like she kept a pair of his shoes, like that's like our signal that she's not over him. And so anyway, they are thinking about opening up a new business, and so she handles like the location, marketing, looks of things, while he handles like the kitchen and like the staffing, more in the cooking, more so. And so when they are interested in buying a new location from a mom and pop store in a different town, they both go on this trip. During this trip, some feelings recount, and they end up talking, having a deep conversation about some details in their relationship, and then they end up hooking up, right? And so it's after this hookup that they're like, oh, it was only gonna be one time, but then they like it, so they're like, well, if it's convenient. He breaks up with the lady he's cooking. In the backstory, with the 2 kids, her daughter is being kind of like mean to the mom, passive aggressive almost, and she's like, the mom's like trying, but they're having a hard time. The son is having a little trouble at school, and it turns out that he's not dealing with like all the tragedies that well, and so they decide to send him to therapy. And the dad, who when the mom was going through her depression after that child loss, he wasn't really feeling therapy, he didn't want to go. He now agrees to go so his son can see the role model. Before, he thought it wasn't going to help him, he thought he was fine. So he agrees to go to encourage his son, and it was a big step forward for all of them. And as he's in therapy, he's realizing some of the emotional things that he didn't unpack during the loss of their child. And it's around this time that you start getting more back story about that, which was that after what was it? I guess it was a miscarriage. She was at work by herself while he was out of town. She told him to go. She slipped on a board, fell on her stomach, and it caused her to lose a child. We are seeing details of she's really depressed. She was like hanging out in the kids the nursery, and he was like moving forward trying to keep them afloat because like the business started failing. They had lost his aunt who was the chef, and it was hard to find a new chef, and so he was just kind of like struggling trying to keep things together, and she was falling apart, and she wanted him to go to therapy with her, and he wouldn't. And it wasn't until she was like at her wits' end that she asked for divorce, and it was from the divorce, of the pressure of trying to stay married, and with therapy, that she was able to get back to the person she really is. So now he's in therapy, he's getting through some of the harm they did, they're sleeping together, and we are seeing their feelings come back, but he is determined, like, you left me, you broke my heart, I will never, I wanted to stay, you asked me to leave, that's it. And so as they're getting more and more like, we love each other again, the daughter finds out, the teenage daughter, and she kind of emotes that like she hates her mom because she feels like her mom is the person who tore up the relationship, and she ruined everything, and she made their dad leave. And that helps out. Everyone gets to like some growth and some closure. And eventually the the couple gets back together, but he doesn't want to get married. He just wants to have a relationship. And then in the eulogy, not the eulogy, the epilogue, they end up getting engaged again. Other details in the story that I remember, but aren't like relative to that plot. The daughter's like a YouTube like little like she's like doing hair tutorials and stuff. So that's a cool detail. The mom has two best friends. One is one has two daughters. I think the next book's about her. And in this story, her husband is not like around. Like it's almost implied there's some nonsense going on. And then the other one, I believe her mom is sick, and I'm kind of her Hendrix. I remember her name. I am excited to read her book when it comes out. So give me a grade. Tell me how good or bad I did at recapping this book. If I left out any super important details, or you think I remember.